Hey guys, and welcome back to the Mudstuds and Skullcaps podcast. I'm Robin.
And I'm Kelsey. And in today's episode, we are going to be discussing calming devices that can be used while riding your horse. Do earplugs live up to the promise to help calm a hearing-sensitive horse? And did Vicki Wilson really cheat by using liquid titanium hoods in the Road to the Horse competitions? Hey guys, don't forget to check out last week's episode to find out why bit creams or chewing gum treats can't actually help a nervous horse, let alone help with the acceptance of the bit, and why I no longer care if my horse foams in the mouth while I'm riding. And of course, if you're enjoying listening to our podcast and want others to hear our discussion on the latest scientific research, send them a link to our podcast. You can do this on social media or via email or text. Or pop a link in all those Christmas cards you're about to send out to your friends and family. We also want to thank everyone who has left a review so far. We really, really appreciate the support and want to thank you for listening to us and hope you enjoyed this episode.
Is it ever a goal in your life to be able to send out Christmas cards? I feel like that's a really big milestone to hit, to be able to send out a Christmas card. I haven't gotten there yet, but I think one day, 20 years from now, I'll be able to do it.
Oh yeah, this is something Ben and I talk about all the time. We plan out where should we pose, who should be in it. This is a discussion year round in our household, what would be our Christmas card thing. But it's a fail, I don't know how to. It's an inside joke. When we do something or pose or someone does something, it's that's Christmas on the Christmas card. You know what I mean? Don't worry. One of these days, you're going to get something real nice in the mail. I promise you that.
Well, anyways, back to calming aids.
Yes. So for today's episode, we decided to kind of dig into a couple of the different calming aids that are available on the market. These are not edibles. These different kind of calming aids. We're going to look specifically at earplugs because earplugs can maybe do a little bit more than just block out the sound, as well as those fancy hoods you see horses wearing while being ridden. So to start us off with the earplugs, I want to really just set the scene, and I want to share a video. So this is an ad from Equine Healthcare International, which they are the company whose earplugs I'm going to be looking at for this episode. Yes, this is the same company I talked about last week with their Bit Butter. The reason I chose to look at their earplugs specifically, which are the POMMS, is because their POMMS apparently do more than just block out sound, and we'll get into that. But here's the ad that they have.
In the beginning, horse riders used fleece earplugs to keep horses from being distracted while being ridden. Fleece earplugs were itchy and made horses shake their heads. Fleece earplugs always fell out and were lost forever. Then, a great discovery was made. There are 5 acupressure points in a horse's inner ear that can make a horse relaxed when they are stimulated at the same time. That's when the aha moment came. POMMS premium equine earplugs stimulate the 5 pressure points in a horse's ear and aren't itchy. Even better, they don't fall out. As long as POMMS earplugs are being worn, horses of the world were happy. Happy being ridden, happy trailering, happy getting clipped, happy at horse shows. Then, the ponies were sad because they didn't have POMMS to fit them. Equine Healthcare International to the rescue! No worries, little pony, we'll make pony POMMS for you too. Now ponies all over the world will be happy. Spread the word. That's the story of POMMS and pony POMMS. And everyone lived happily ever after.
Okay, so I don't know if you guys remember, but there was a point where those ads where it was a white background and a hand drawing all the pictures were super popular. That's what this ad is. So it's a bunch of cartoon horses and some very sad, grumpy looking ponies when they found out they didn't have POMMS. But I thought these earplugs were really interesting because they talk about acupressure. And when I kind of looked through the comments and looked through some of the interviews and things that I'll share in a second, it was clear that these earplugs were invented not to block out sound, that was just perhaps a secondary benefit, that they were really trying to use them to push on those acupressure points. This product is, again, like I said, it's created by Equine Healthcare International, EHI, which is the company founded by Amy Hassinger and her husband, Dr. Jim Hassinger, whose name I forgot last week, but I forgot it because it was a typo and I had written him, and I was like, is his name Jim? Is this a typo, or did I just like him as in husband? So it's Jim, who is a doctor, and he has a vet clinic in Aberdeen, in North Carolina.
Hey, represent.
Is that close to you? Is Aberdeen close?
Could not tell you.
Yeah, okay.
No idea where I am.
So POMMS, I don't know if you've seen them, but they look like a golf ball, basically. They are either black or pink, and they have like lots of dimples on them. They're foam circles. They're about 1.5 inches wide for the horse ones. I don't know how big the pony ones are, but you basically squeeze them, and then you like stick them in the horse's ear canal. I found an interview that was done with Amy Hassinger when I shared part of this interview last week. This is the How to Create the Most Innovative Equine Products. This was done in 2017 on the Horse Tech Company blog. So I'm going to read her quote about how they came up with the idea of POMMS, because I think it's really fascinating. Whether the science supports it or not, I think it's a really fascinating approach. So EHI was born out of an insatiable curiosity to figure out how we could continue to better the lives of the horses in our care. Our first product, POMMS, is one such example. While working with and caring for horses in our rehab center in North Carolina, I found myself looking for an alternative to the traditional IV or IM sedation that is used to introduce some horses to our underwater treadmill. One of our veterinarians had returned from her first class in acupuncture and acupressure. She shared with us what she had learned about the relaxing effect that horses experienced when the 5 acupressure points were stimulated in the horse's ear at the same time. We began testing different materials that could do the job of stimulating all 5 points simultaneously. When we stumbled upon the perfect material, perfect shape, and perfect density, POMMS premium equine earplugs were born. We tested the 20 horses in the clinic, and all of them demonstrated a marked reduction in heart rate and respiration within 10 minutes of the POMMS being gently rolled into their ears. We also noticed an improvement in each horse's ability to learn the various pieces of rehab equipment. We expanded the use of POMMS to the horses that were being reintroduced to being ridden after a long layup, as well as our personal show horses. We had stumbled on a breakthrough. All of our products were discovered in our vet clinic in much of the same way, as necessity is always the mother of invention. So I think that's like a super interesting story, right? So this was 2008 is when POMMS made it onto the market. And looking back at some of the like discussion boards, the early 2000s was when the sheep fuzzies, they're called bunnies, I think is their name, but they're little sheepskin fuzzy earplugs. That's when those first started appearing in training and in show arenas. So POMMS was designed to not be noise blocking, but to be something totally different, which I think is really interesting.
I think that's super interesting because the other day you asked me when I had no idea about these earplugs, and you're like, well, what do you think they do? And my only thought was that they help block sound of, loud crowds or help keep the horse calm through blocking sound. You're like, actually, no, they work on the pressure points. And I love the reason why they created this product, that it wasn't, I like the logic and the whole steps they took behind it, that it was in the horse's best interest and to like help them with these different therapy products, and it wasn't to help increase your scores in the competition world.
Right, and I thought that was getting on an underwater treadmill. I've never been around one, but I take it they're not super loud pieces of equipment. They more have like a constant rumble, but like the whole process of introducing a horse to that, I can imagine being really stressful. So I love this idea that we're trying to find something to bring down the horse's stress, that we're looking for that type of alternative. And I mean, if they went to market with these, there must be some evidence that they work. I mean, she mentions that they brought down the heart rate within 10 minutes. Not that there's any studies that I could find or any of their research to support that, but I do think that's interesting. Like, I mean, it's piqued my interest enough that I've actually bought a pair of POMMS. They're in the mail on their way here because I want to try them for my horse for the farrier, because she gets really stressed out with the farrier. She doesn't have issues with loud noises, but I'm just curious, like, could it work?
It's such an interesting non-invasive product, which I think makes it that much more interesting because you're not having to introduce something entirely new into your horse's system. Is that this is a product you can apply and then remove. Like, it's not in their body. It's not a surgery. It's nothing dramatic.
Yeah, and that's why I really wanted to try it for the farrier, because I've had to do a lot of giving my horse sedatives for the farrier because she gets really stressed out because she has a lot of physical limitations that getting her feet trimmed and new shoes put on is actually just like it's a really stressful experience for her and her body because she just can't relax and like brace herself correctly. So that's why I was like, if I don't have to drug her, I would love not having to drug my horse and do anything to help keep her calmer so that I don't have to get mad and the farrier doesn't have to get mad that she like won't stand or is struggling to stand. My curiosity, of course, before I bought these, well, I bought them and then did the research, so we'll see what happens. I am curious to give them a shot, especially like because they are $10 to $11 for a set of them, and because I'm not planning on riding in them and replacing them because they actually do fall out quite a lot, is what the rumor is. That they fall out and get lost quite frequently. In fact, they actually have a video on their Facebook page of one falling out and a dog stealing it and running away. So even they know, even the company knows that yes, they do fall out. But there are lots of different earplugs out on the market. Like I mentioned, there was the original fuzzy sheepskin ones. There's also ones that are like made out of different types of foam. Some are like wine cork shaped. Some are just like big circles. And there's lots. These are really big in the kart racing industry. And they have these, like, if you Google them, they're super like strange looking contraptions because they have strings on them so you can pull them out while you're riding or while your horse, like while you're driving or whatever, because they like clip back. They have this whole string set up and they clip back to your saddle and you can pull them out while you're riding or going, which I guess, sure, but they look really creepy, where I do like the POMMS just being a little bit simpler. You just squish it and put it in, but it does mean they're easy to lose. So I wanted to start when I did the research with, okay, do earplugs. Let's just start with, can we block the sound out with earplugs? Do they even function? They're being advertised as earplugs. Do they even function well enough to block out the sound? Equine earplugs are designed to protect the horse's hearing. The pinna, which is like the large cup-like part of the equine ear, is controlled by 16 different muscles, and it can swivel that cup in towards any sound it hears. But I thought that was interesting. 16 different muscles to control the ear.
Fun fact. Cats have 32 muscles in each ear.
What? Their ears are like teeny tiny compared to horses.
Yeah. Think of how teeny tiny those muscles are.
I know, this is like their little pinprick muscles. Oh, weird. 32 in a cat and 16 in a horse. There's your fun fact for the day, guys. So when I looked for the research, there was exactly one study that had looked into different types of earplugs. And I'm going to have to explain how this study was set up. And I just want to like apologize now for having to explain how this study was set up because it is a little nauseating. It makes me a little nauseous to talk about how this study was set up. So I do apologize.
No.
I do apologize. So this is a 2010 study titled Preliminary Investigation into the Effects of Earplugs on Sound Transmission in the Equine Ear. So basically what they did is they took 6 different types of earplugs: cotton wool, cashel, little wine cork one, a long oval one, 2 shorter ones that are different, like they're all different foam materials, and then a fintac, which is a circle, or fintac, it's a circle memory foam. So there's wool, a couple different foams, and memory foam that they had these 6 different ones that they put in the horses. And so what they did was they first inserted a microphone into the horse's ear and then it's okay, he didn't feel the pain. And then they put the earplugs in after. So they had 6 different horse heads. So they used cadavers. They were 6 fresh horse cadavers that were just from just the neck and the head. And they were, free of abnormalities. And so what they did is they went into an anesthesia wake-up room, which, it's a padded cell, basically, for the horse to wake up from after they've had surgery, and so they don't hurt themselves when they're getting up. But basically, they laid the heads down so that the right side was up and the left side was down, and they stuck the microphone in the ear and then put an earplug. So, already you can see that there might be some questions raised from the results of this study. I get that you probably have to use cadavers because getting a microphone and an earplug in a horse is probably not feasible on a live horse. I bet that's true.
Okay, here's my question. Could you have gotten the same results if you had, a mold of the horse's ear did it have to be a physical horse's ear to test if the material could block sound or not?
Yes, for their experiment. And the reason being is because when the microphone is recording, it's not recording the tone. So that's something they point out, is that what it's recording is the vibrations from the sound. And so you don't know what the horse is actually hearing. You just know what the vibrations are that are reaching them. And so like plastic wouldn't vibrate the same as horsey flesh ear, right? That's what I think. They don't really talk about it. There's not a lot of information in this study because like I couldn't even figure out, they said they had 6 different horse heads and 6 different earplugs, but I wasn't even clear, did they like each horse wore all 6 or they just did one type per horse? And I think they did one type per horse, which
is a lot of different variables.
Exactly, right? And they mentioned that like different ear shape of the horse is, you know, their ear canals all being shaped differently. They also only used one ear because the horse was laying on its side. So they only put it in one ear. There's a lot of variables that could go into this. But what they were trying to get was the sound, you know, those sound images. Like if you're recording or editing a podcast, for example, you know how you see all the sound waves. That's what they were trying to get. And I don't think you could get those sound waves without inserting a microphone into the horse's ear. Now, there's probably lots of other ways to test if earplugs work or not. For example, we probably could put earplugs in the horse's ear on a live horse and then clap or do a bunch of different noises to see if they have like the same response. You know what I mean? Like you probably, no earplugs, clap your hands, earplugs, clap your hands, and see what the response is. And they do talk about that in the conclusion and say like, you know, these are other studies that could be done. But again, this is the only study, and this was 2010. Basically, what they found was that the best performing earplug was this memory foam, the circle memory foam FinTac earplug. However, while it worked the best, clearly worked the best, none worked better than the cotton, or the cotton was like the second best. So just shoving wool cotton in the horse's ear. So they all work. They all definitely perform as earplugs. But if you're looking for the best one, it's the Sphere, which is the same shape as the POMMS, and it's made out of a similar foam material as the POMMS. They did not test POMMS specifically. I don't know why, if it just wasn't available, they didn't know about it. They only like decided to test the cotton at the very last minute and were like, hey, we have cotton in the vet clinic, let's try it. So I don't know how like thought out all of this experiment was, if there was more brands they wanted to test. Some of these shapes are pretty similar, some of these shapes are not. But they did find that they all work. If you're looking to block out sound, any earplug will get the job done. The best one being the circle or sphere.
Okay, did they say how much each one blocked out? Or actually, you probably don't want to get into the nitty-gritty of it.
I don't want to get into the nitty-gritty. I can look at the images, and they did talk a little bit about the science of, the science between the numbers. But basically what they did is they just played a bunch of sounds off of a computer, and those sounds were all within the range a horse could hear, and they just documented what the waves looked like.
So how much of this sound was the memory foam one actually blocking? Does it say that?
Well, and so like the issue was that they ran into was that they were trying to also, why I don't fully understand it is because they were trying to, their equations were trying to account for the different shapes of the ears and some other factors that were going on. So it's not like a straight out, there's some confusion to it. The FinTac one did reduce at the maximum by 10.25 decibels. So it did reduce that maximum noise by 10 decibels, where its minimum reduction was 2.5 decibels. No other earplug came close to that 10.25 decibel decrease. One was like another foam earplug that was like half a sphere, came close with a 5 decrease in decibel. But depending on what sound, because the sounds got louder, they had 14 sounds that got louder each sound. And so, or some got louder and some were different types of sounds. Depending on the sound, right, the decibel decrease was different per sound. Anyway, so they do, in this research study, they do, say that future attempts should be made to understand how earplugs can work on different frequencies, because right, there's a lot of different noises a horse can hear, not just loud and quiet noises. And also, how do they affect their behavior in those noisy environments? Because, right, they were just looking at, do they block sound? But there's a lot of other factors that could be considered when you're talking about earplugs working on a horse. Do they seem calmer? Are they showing calm signs? Or is it just sound blocking? So the second piece of POMMS is the acupressure, right? acupoints. Do these earplugs actually, like, does acupressure actually work? Do the earplugs actually, push on these acupoints? I found a December 13th, 2011 quick little synopsis of what acupressure is by Kentucky Equine Research. Acupressure is a treatment modality that has its roots in traditional Chinese medicine. Unlike the more familiar acupuncture, which uses needles inserted into horses' tissues to influence energy pathways, acupressure seeks to treat various conditions in the horse by using non-invasive pressure. Practitioners identify various locations, which are called acupoints, located on energy pathways or meridians that run through the horse's body, working on the theory that imbalances in energy flow cause problems such as pain, inflammation, muscle spasms, and that gentle thumb pressure on an acupoint can assess the horse's reaction. So that's how traditional Chinese acupressure works. Keep that in mind as we have this discussion, because this is going to get real weird and not,
okay.
I learned stuff that I did not know was out there to be learned. But when I was researching these POMMS, the first question I had, of course, was, okay, so what are the 5 acupoints? What are they? Right? Seems simple enough. However, it's actually not that simple when it comes to determining the 5 acupressure points, because horses' ears and they're called acumaps or ear maps or just maps of those acupressure points. How acupressure works in a horse's ear is totally different than how it works anywhere else in the body. Acupressure in a horse's ear or your ear or a dog's ear or a cat's ear or anyone's ear is not the same as how it works in the body. In fact, it's not even Chinese medicine. It's Western medicine, specifically French medicine. I found a synopsis of how ear acupressure works on Dr. Yu Peterman's webpage. He was at one point the president of the International Veterinary Acupuncture Society. And so I will use the term acupuncture a lot because acupuncture is actually the term for it, and then you can use whatever type of acupuncture you want. So it could be the needles, it could be acupressure, it could be a variety of different like herbs. You can wave some herbs over those points, and that is considered acupuncture. It's just a different form of it. This is a quote from his webpage, and this is gonna try to explain this. Stop me if you're like, what? At any point, because it gets weird. So in the first moment, ear acupuncture seems to be very different to the well-known body acupuncture. Initially, the modern style of ear acupuncture was based on a scientific Western approach, while modern body acupuncture was first based on the traditional Chinese approach. Nowadays, they come together in both diagnosis and treatment. The attempt was made to locate the exact ear acupuncture points for every organ, nerve, joint, and vertebra, as well as every other area of the body, including functional points. So we have in ear acupuncture points like the ACTH point, endorphin point, histaminic point, prostaglandial point, or organ points. For example, liver point, kidney point, and so on.
Sure.
So basically, how the ear works is the ear is a map of your entire body. This website was from an International Veterinarian Acupuncture Society, and basically they took acupuncture from people and then turned it and took it to animals. So I am going to talk a little bit about the father of ear acupressure, who was French Dr. Paul Nouguer. He is considered the father of modern ear acupuncture.
What a niche to be the father of.
What a niche to be the father of. Yes. I didn't even know ear acupuncture was like so specific and that it was like a whole thing out there. So basically what his belief is, and hold on to your butt for this one, is that your ear is a fetus. It's just an upside down fetus. And so the upside down fetus parts correlate with the parts of your body. So like the knee of the fetus is the same part as the knee in your ear of your fetus. He's got pictures. Basically what he calls it is the man in the ear, which is the title of his 1979 book, Man in the Ear, all about ear acupressure. Imagine a fetus upside down. So like the lobe of your ear is the fetus's head. So if you want to like do acupressure on your head because your head hurts, you would like do stuff to the lobe of your ear. Does that make sense? And so like further up where the fetus's like legs would be is up at the top of your ear. And so you would like push on there to like, it's not just pushing, there's a lot more to it when it comes to ears. That's what I'm saying. The ear is like the entire body is in the ear, unlike the body, which is just the body. So I found a 2007 paper which is titled Ear Acupuncture in European Traditional Medicine. And it is a study that kind of looks back at Paul Nugier's research and kind of goes through summarizing some other research. It summarizes a bunch of things. It's actually really interesting. It's a really quick read, and it's by people with awesome names. There is a Gori Luigi and a Fabio Frenzenzali who wrote this paper. Yeah, anyone named Luigi and Fabio can be my friends. Fabio. I guess it's Fabio right now, Fabio. That's stupid. Okay, so in 1957, Dr. Paul Nugier, physician resident in Lyon, France, first presented his observations of the somatic correspondences of the ear. That's basically the ear map.
Okay.
He is actually considered the father of modern acucolotherapy, which is ear acupuncture, and originated the concept of the inverted fetus map on the external ear. He developed this theory after noticing that some patients attending his clinic had a small scar from a burn on part of their ear. On inquiring about this, he was told that a very small area of the ear had been cauterized by a certain madame for treatment of sciatic pain, a treatment that proved very rapid and effective. So basically in the 50s, he noticed that patients were coming in with little scars on their ear. I would guess if it's sciatic pain, that's like your lower back pelvis area. So somewhere on like the back of your ear, they were noticing scars. So basically, to boil this down, right, he believes that there is a man in the ear, and that represents all your body parts. It was speculated that the technique works because a group of pluripotent cells containing information from the whole organism and create regional organization centers representing different parts of the body. Nevertheless, stimulation of a reflex point in the ear seems to relieve symptoms of distant pathologies. There is some connection. So this isn't just like a crazy man saying there's a fetus in your ear. They did a 1980 experiment where they had 40 people who came in, had physical pain somewhere in their body. So an experimental evaluation of ocular diagnosis. Somototopic mapping of musculoskeletal pain in the ear, acupuncture points. That's the name of their study.
It's a mouthful.
Basically, 40 patients came in. Their body was underneath the sheet, and the doctor looked at their ear to tell them and like to guess where their pain was. Right? Okay, that's pretty simple. He looked at their ear and was like, okay, it hurts in your knees or it hurts in your back. I can see the evidence of it in your ear. He was right 75% of the time, which is, I guess, pretty good. And they did agree that this concluded that there must be some type of connection, that there truly must be some sort of map in the human ear. If he got it 75% of the time by just looking at the ear.
I mean, that's a C. C's get degrees.
That's true. C's get degrees and they get scientific theories. Trying to come back to POMMS is that there are so many different maps in the horse's ears. What are the 5 they could be pushing on? Because there's like hundreds, but also there's like not, like there's just so many different points in the horse's ears that they could be pushing on. So this comes from that same Dr. Pedersen's website, the veterinarian president's website. Basically, there's this understanding that if your dog, they did this study with a dog, so I'm going to say dog, but it could be horse. That imagine your dog hurts themselves on their elbow, right? So they've gotten a cut, they've whacked their elbow on something, they've hurt themselves. Their body immediately goes, the nervous system immediately goes, hey, we're hurt over here. Can someone do something? Can someone send help? And the nervous system says, yes, we're going to bring swelling. We're going to bring heat. We're going to like get lots of inflammation. We're going to bring all the good stuff to that hurt area, right? And it starts to swell up that location. So that's step 1 is that you hurt yourself. Step 2 is the body's response and brings swelling and heat. So that request goes into the brain. So that request, so he said, hey, I need help. And then that area says also, hey, brain, can you send pain? Can you tell my body that part on my knee or my elbow, whatever I just hit, not only is it swollen, but it also hurts. So the body has to communicate with the brain, through the brain to the nervous system to say, hey, there's pain in that location. When the body communicates with the brain and with the nervous system, it also continues through the brain into the corresponding point in the ear. And the ear will then swell in that corresponding location.
Okay, that kind of makes sense, actually.
It actually kind of makes sense and is plausible, right? Like the body obviously continues to communicate, and all of this happens, probably within seconds of, getting an injury. Your body's saying, "Oh, I hurt," or "Oh, that hurt. Protect me. Try to protect me." And so that's how the belief around this mapping of the ear works. Is that those signals don't just stop, that they continue to move through the body, and that anything connected to them also is influenced by the pain in that other location. Which, again, I think that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
However, the conclusion of that 2007 paper that I mentioned earlier states that actually one of the many methodology problems with ocular acupuncture is that there are so many maps of the ear and little agreement existing regarding point location, lacking definite automatic study of the ear skin and its somotopic correspondences. Another problem is that all correspondences or reflex systems do not correlate to the knowledge of the anatomy or the physiology based on the patterns of the mainstream medicine. Even in 2007, they were saying, this could be working, but nobody agrees on what these maps are. Nobody agrees exactly on how this is working. We don't know if this is a real thing. Which brings me back to the POMMS. If acupuncture in the ear is so different than acupuncture in the rest of the body, what are the 5 points that they're trying to push on? Nowhere did they show a map. Nowhere did they explain. Like, obviously, from the shape of the earplug, I understand that it's got to be ones lower down, but ones lower down range from, like the hock and the knee to the liver, the kidney. So, like, it's a map of the body. So are you saying that these earplugs are, if my horse maybe has an injury or a sore in one of these locations, that the earplugs could be putting pressure on to help with those sorenesses or pains in other locations? So, like, is there a hit or miss thing that maybe? Yeah, I'm like, I just don't know. I'm so confused. I'm just super confused with ear acupuncture. It seems it's really different. It's really weird. There's 100 different maps. There's actually like 5 different maps with 100 different points, but regardless, like, it's a lot. It's a lot. But people really do believe this and are really, really interested in the ear mapping, the man in the ear. And I'm, like, curious, is it like a horse fetus? How's the horse fetus positioned in the ear? I haven't seen that picture yet.
I'm interested how it produces, like, a calming effect on the horse.
Right. And so that's what I found, like, with the research. All of it seems very, like, medical based, like, body parts based. It doesn't seem that, like, there's calming necessarily knees, lungs, kidneys. This is all like the nervous system and the muscular skeletal system represented in the ear, not like chi and energy lines and meridians. It's not what's happening in the rest of the body.
How confusing to try and figure that out and think it through when you're not a medical professional yourself.
Right, and I'm not. And so I apologize. But, like, it just seems like there's 2 different things. Like, they're approaching it from this traditional Chinese sense, which does seem like the Chinese medicine and the Chinese perspective on acupuncture has been brought in a little bit to this world. But the world of ear acupuncture is all Western medicine. And so it's not around the energy and the aligning of the chakras and whatnot that the rest of the body is.
That's super interesting because my product, which I go in and looked at the liquid titanium therapeutic mask used on horses, but it goes as far as they also have ear bonnets and ear plugs. And I was particularly looking at like these 3 sets of products, not the rest of them, because liquid titanium is available in saddle pads, hock boots, sheets, all different types of products. But in particular, the ones that act on the face were advertised to reduce stress, reduce anxiety, and have a calming effect. And so those are exactly what I was looking at, because we're looking at the calming aids. And they have liquid titanium earplugs. So I'm so curious about, is the liquid titanium acting as a double whammy for putting pressure on the pressure points, or does it even do anything?
I don't know. I mean, I think the circle shape blocks the noise the best. So you've got a check there for their effectiveness. And then I don't know. I don't know what those 5 points are.
Yeah, so I guess I'll kind of start just diving into the liquid titanium masks and products. And I really like how you really only looked into Equine International.
Equine Healthcare International.
Yeah, how you only really looked into Equine Healthcare International. I only really looked into Fenwick Equestrian because they seem to be the most prominent brand out there selling liquid titanium masks, as well as I actually liked their website and how they're presenting information. I liked it when I was reading through their patent, what they're presenting. And I think that they are coming from a good place of trying to create this product. I don't think they're coming from a sham, just a cash grab, trying to make money off the competition market. Fenwick Equestrian was started by Wilhelmina and Fred McEwans, and they have so many liquid titanium products out there, all ranging all the way from products to put on your dogs, to your horses, to you yourself, that are like bed sheets, shirts, hats, scarves for your dog. Like, they have so many different
scarves for my dog.
They have scarves for your dog because apparently it helps reduce barking. Just throwing that out
nice.
There.
Perfect. I want a dog scarf. I
know. I read that and I was like, what in the world? No way. You can't be claiming that. So the first thing really I kind of want to talk about is what they advertise liquid titanium to do. And liquid titanium is in this fabric. And so all these products are made out of this fabric. It's not that this one piece, like how yours was, it was the earplug. This one isn't that.
Yeah, it's the design.
Yeah, it's not that it's the design. It's the fabric they're using. So it's kind of along the lines of like the ceramic back on track stuff, as well as the Rambo ionic blankets. They're a lot more similar than I think we started thinking about. And now when I think back to that episode, I'm like redrawing up all things that you were saying and was like, oh my gosh, it's another one. Liquid titanium is advertised to increase H2O hydration, which improves blood circulation and increases oxygen in the blood, providing more energy, improves metabolism. It uses FIR to convert into radiant heat, infrared energy, which produces body warmth, increases the production of nitric oxide, which is a key component of a healthy immune system, reduces the acidity or lactic acid buildup in our bodies, detoxification, helps flush toxins out of the body, helps reduce toxic substances in the body, reduces aches, pains, and joint stiffness, and relieves muscle spasms, reduces pain associated with arthritis, can reduce inflammatory skin conditions. Then these last couple are really where I focused in on how they're addressing the mask and the products they use on the face. And those are ones that can reduce anxiety, can reduce stress, which can reduce the chance of ulcers, induces alpha brain waves, and stabilizes serotonin levels, which can create a calming effect, increases awareness and helps your horse focus in a positive way, and promotes psychological health.
Did the horse have to, what are those ink blot tests?
What do you see here?
Carrots?
Sugar cube? Okay. Yeah, I don't know how they're measuring psychological health, but I was so interested in how because they kept saying that like using liquid titanium products on the head helps reduce anxiety, reduce stress, induces alpha brain waves, which I thought was so interesting because...
What are alpha brain waves?
Oh, let me tell you. Actually, I read a lot about it, understood very little.
But they're not just like, my horse is dominant and he has alpha brain waves.
No. So
okay.
We all have brain waves. There's actually 5 brain waves out there. You have alpha, beta, theta. I'm assuming delta's in there. I don't remember the other one. I really only looked at alpha and then there was beta and I was like, oh, interesting. Okay, cool. Alpha brainwaves appear in waking and tranquil and inactive states. And they also appeared in patients who are waking up, who have their eyes closed and are not physically active. They did decrease when a patient opened their eyes, but once the patient reclosed their eyes, the alpha waves re-increased. They are very present when you're in a calm, like meditative state. They're not when you're in a deep sleep or anything. They're not there. That's a different set of brainwaves. But they're there when you're in a calm, almost meditative state.
Wait, did they say they increased or decreased these?
Increased.
Okay, I was going to say, those sound good.
Yeah, so they sound good.
I want my horse to be calm.
And it says that the liquid titanium increases this.
How?
I don't know. So that's where I got really caught up in things and confused, was because the way liquid titanium works is one way is it produces negative ions, very similar to the Rambo ionic blanket. Negative ions, they make you feel better, they increase your energy and produce a positive mood and help reduce depression. Negative ions you get from being outside is when you're locked inside all day, you get depressed and you're sad and you just want a breath of fresh air, is because you go and you get those negative ions that help you feel better. On top of that is liquid titanium works off of far infrared rays. We've talked about previously with ceramic products with Back on Track, other things out there, they use this type of therapy. And just a reminder, like a refresher, is far infrared rays, also referred to FIR, which is just the acronym, is light energy considered essential to our well-being and health. The energy is easily absorbed by the body through resonance absorption. Once these rays penetrate our body, they activate the molecules in body cells, thus producing a varying degree of warmth and improving blood flow to the rest of our body, which then helps it heal itself. And it's like kind of a domino effect that once it opens up these channels, other things can start happening that are promising and good for the body. All the effects it has on the body are very similar to other products already out there on the market. I just can't quite figure out where the research is to support the increase of alpha brain, like how the negative ions increase those alpha brain waves, or how it's producing this calming effect. I just don't understand it, because everything else that they're talking about reduces swelling, helps spasms and pain. I understand that, because it all goes back to the far infrared, and there's plenty of study and research done on that.
Yeah, because I can't imagine that the far infrared or even the negative ions could penetrate into the skull and into the brain to like change things, right? Like, it's not like they're sending out, because I mean that's part of the problem, is these waves are so short based off of these products. They're not very long.
Yes, and I think where this product really came about, and where I see it getting pushed a lot, and what they really talked about a lot on their website and stuff, you kind of mentioned with the Ionic Rambo blanket, was 1% had really good results. Their horse was on stall rest and was a very active horse, and so they were depressed, really. And when they put the blanket on that helped promote negative ions and increase the energy and like increase their mood, they saw really good results. And where I see this liquid titanium really getting pushed is especially on the racing industry with these hood styles, is they already use these, and so they sell this product to be able to have blinkers put into it, and it's sold for standardbreds all over the place. And they also really recommend using it on horses that are regularly stalled. They recommend it if you're like a horse that has to be traveling a long time, using it on them in those situations. And that's where they seem to be having the best results, because you have these horses that are in not natural situations and are stressed, and so you apply this product to help them in those instances. And they do talk about how they see very different responses in different horses. For instance, younger horses receive a lot bigger effect from it than older horses did.
Interesting.
And on top of that, I'm assuming they saw a lot, they didn't specify where they saw the biggest results with other horses, but I would assume based off of how it works, you would see the biggest results on horses that are stressed in a stall, or are, in a very different situation than a horse out on pasture 24/7.
Yeah. I mean, I think that was part of the negative ion research, was that it helped those most upset and those at like the biggest extremes, but didn't help for those who are more in the middle. And I imagine it's the same for horses.
And I really like this company, because they do definitely acknowledge this. They don't say, they're not selling it for every single horse out there, which I appreciate. I really like that, is they... Yeah. On their website, they come out and say, you will not see the same results on every single horse. It will not be the same effectiveness on every horse out there. These are the instances where it really seems to work and what it's trying to promote in the horse's body. I started looking into their patent, and the first thing was they don't have a patent on any of the products. It's the material they're trying to get patented. Wilhelmina McEwan, she submitted a patent back in July of 2013. As of like 2018, a video that she posted on her YouTube channel, it appears that the patent is still pending. I haven't seen any confirmation updates if they've successfully gotten their patent, but in their patent they reference a lot of different studies done with this product, with this material that has a liquid titanium in it. And once again, it's one of those frustrating things with the horse industry, or maybe I'm seriously inept at finding these studies that like talk about this stuff, but it doesn't appear that their extensive research is publicly, looks like it's all company research that they're holding privately.
Yeah, and I imagine if you're trying to get patents, you're not very keen to get that information or to make that information public.
No, but I really did like their patent and the way they had it worded, because they talk about the experiments that they've done to test their products, and they didn't just stop at like sick horses. These products, they tested it on dogs and cats and other humans, which I think is very interesting, and not many of the products out there do I feel actually go beyond testing it on people.
Yeah.
And in their patent, they do list numerous experiments that they did, and I guess it's the results they received during these experiments. It's kind of hard to tell with how they worded it, and the fact that I don't get a look at any of the experiments that they did or the results myself. However, they did experiments, and what they said they found with them is that the wraps used on the legs reduced inflammation. Over the knee boots did relieve arthritic pain. Wraps around knee joints relieved arthritic pain. Improved blood flow to the feet, relieve the problem of laminitis. Ankle wraps reduced inflammation. Saddle pads relieve back pain. Blankets relieve the pain and inflammation of the body. The neck sleeves relieve arthritis pain and inflammation. Bed sheets improve the blood circulation of a newborn pony. The ear caps reduce anxiety. They improved hair growth, improved the immune system, and reduced nasal discharge. Blind horses were able to adapt to their environment better, which I never thought of. Horses appeared better focused on their work, reduced anxiety, reduced the use of stomach medicine, stopped walking and swinging of the head while stalled, improved head shaker symptoms, stallions were more polite, and fractures healed faster. And I assume for them to be putting this in their patent that there had to be something there. They had to have actually seen real results. Like, they're not just going to put false information in their patent.
I mean, yeah, they have to have results for that. But yeah, it is frustrating that you don't get to see these studies or understand what the situation was. Was this one stallion? Was this 10 stallions? You know, there's so much that.
And the ear bonnet, the ear cap that reduces anxiety, I want to know more about that. Like, I'm so interested in some of these claims that they make, and they list all these like results for specifically these are for the horses, and they have their set for humans, they have their set for dogs and cats. And so they did all these different studies. I just wish I could see them and read them. But I think one of my favorite quotes from the whole website that I found like randomly halfway down a page that I think makes a lot of sense and says a lot for those that are creating these products. It is, a drugged horse does not remember what you tried to teach him when he was out of it, which I think makes a lot of sense and makes these non-intrusive calming techniques, these non-intrusive products so effective and so interesting.
Yeah, and I, like we mentioned before, like, you don't have to feed your horse anything for these results. You don't have, because that changes their behavior entirely, like throughout the day if you're feeding a supplement versus just using a product when you need it.
Like, I'm frustrated because I think this, unlike a lot of the brands that I've researched recently and like the gum bits and stuff, unlike them, they actually have research. And I do believe that they have done these studies to see these improvements and these results from the product. So I'm very interested in the product and would like to try it. I just wish that I could have found the studies. I don't know if they're just not public knowledge. I kind of assume they're not public record yet or publicly posted, especially if they haven't gotten their patent approved. I would assume they're keeping it private, but I'd like to read it. I'd like to see the studies and be able to make my own conclusions from there.
Yeah, and how you can apply it to your own horse. And because, yeah, as we pointed out with these studies, that there's so many variables that can affect the results. And researchers, I think, last week's studies, we were coming to totally different conclusions than they were coming to reading the same, documents. So that's why it's so nice to be able to have these studies and have them available, because there are so many variables and so many different conclusions to draw.
And after listening to everything you were talking about with acupuncture and stuff, I think it probably does have some sort of effect, but I don't know if it's as drastic as we all imagine it to be.
Yeah, and that's the other, when you're sitting there looking for something, you're probably going to see things to confirm it, right? That it's happening, that it's working, versus, not just it happening organically. Like, that's, are these experiments, did the horse have an ear bonnet on and the earplugs were underneath it, and you don't know if the horse you're riding has earplugs in that day or doesn't? Like, that'd be interesting to me if you're, not looking for these results. So, do you think Vicki Wilson cheated and rode to the horse by putting one on her horse?
No.
On her colt?
No.
Yeah, no, I don't think she cheated either, because first off, she had to get the hood on an unbroke horse, and anyone else could have put a hood on their horse as well. They just don't. It wasn't one of their tools. So, I don't think she cheated, but there was some discussion in the comments about it. Did you find any, the general reviews from the public? Were they favorable for this product, or was there a mix?
I didn't read any reviews. There's probably a bunch out there, but I didn't really read them. I just got, distracted trying to learn what brainwaves were and what they were doing.
I just wanted to share a few final thoughts when it comes to the earplugs, because I did look into the rules for USEA and USEF about using them.
Okay.
For competition. But I did want to share this one review I found, because I did look for reviews briefly. And someone gave it a 1 star for these earplugs, because the only reason I gave 1 star is that it is not for large dogs. My German Shepherd was able to shake them out even after I'd cut them. What? In 2019, the USEA did permit earplugs to be used for prize ceremonies. So that is the only time you're allowed to use the earplug specifically, is for prize-giving ceremonies. However, you can use noise-reducing ear bonnets, because there are a couple companies out there that make ear bonnets that supposedly have the same sort of like noise blocking. I don't know if there's some special material in it.
Liquid titanium, they have, or Fenwick, they have their own liquid titanium ear bonnets.
So yeah, you can use those as long as the horse's ears can move freely and it cannot be tied to their noseband. So I did find a document. It's the Disproved Rule Changes that was published on January 12th, 2019. These are USCF rules that the different organizations, and there's a ton of different organizations that compete under USCF rules. These are all the rules that did not get approved. And one of them was a push to allow earplugs to be used in eventing and dressage competitions. And the reasoning for wanting to change this rule was the use of earplugs for ear protection, flies, wind, rain, debris is a common piece of equipment utilized in the training environment of horses in all disciplines. To maintain consistency, riders should be able to continue utilizing earplugs for ear protection during competition in the same manner the ear covers are currently allowed. Further, earplugs are allowed by the USCF and other disciplines, i.e. hunters and Arabians, and are allowed during prize-giving ceremonies. In order to maintain consistency across USCF, earplugs should no longer be listed in the rulebook as prohibited pieces of competition equipment in dressage and eventing, or any other USCF regulated disciplines. Many horses cross over from hunters to jumpers to dressage to eventing, etc. Consistency in the equipment allowed for the protection of the horse's ears should be maintained across the subdiscipline of USCF. Ear nets are allowed, but earplugs are prohibited. This is inconsistent, and for this reason, I propose that the USCF strike any reference to earplugs as a prohibited piece of equipment during competition. So eventing weighed in, and they said this is not in line with FEI rules for eventing, and so USCA did not comment, but they both recommended not approving it. And dressage weighed in, saying that U.S. equestrian dressage follows FEI dressage rules, and the FEI dressage does not allow for earplugs in competition. But do you want to guess who was the proponent of that rule change? Who was pushing for earplugs in dressage and eventing?
I don't know. Who?
Amy Hastinger.
Ah.
She would like to sell a few more. Which, I mean, I don't know how I feel about earplugs in competition. I don't know
if I'm against them. I don't think I understand why they're banned, because using their it's not gumbits. I would understand those being banned more because those are not acting on the horse's system. But I feel like if these are actually working on acupuncture and the horse's body and like working on the systems within.
Okay, well, notice in her reasoning for why the rule should be changed, she didn't mention anything about that. It's just to keep flies, wind, rain, and debris out of the horse's ears. Just like
I did notice that.
So she's not discussing that. And I bet that's probably on purpose, right? You probably can't give your horse a calming device. I guess you could do supplements. You can give your horse tons of supplements, but you probably aren't allowed to do something physical in that regard, I'm guessing is the approach, because hoods also aren't allowed. So you couldn't be riding on one of the hoods you were talking about. I think the idea is that, and I've seen a lot of comments being that your horse should be calm, your horse should be okay with noises. It should be that you and your horse have a good working relationship, that these things aren't necessary. The feedback I've seen, obviously the organizations just said it wasn't in line with FEI rules, so they weren't going to vote for approval, which is fine. The FEI for each, because I think the FEA does allow them for show jumping, maybe not. I'm not exactly sure. I could only find certain rule books. I wasn't able to find all the rule books. I apologize. But I know they are banned in endurance.
Like, I understand their argument that your horse should have a good enough working relationship that you don't need a calming device. But I'm thinking, for a younger horse, or maybe someone is just anxious that day or something, and you want to give them a little bit extra to like use it to help them feel relaxed and calm and make a good experience. That way the next time you don't need it.
I mean, you also have to keep in mind that this is USCF rules, which then goes down to USCA. So not all schooling shows follow these rules. Some do, some don't. So maybe if you're still needing earplugs, then you shouldn't be competing recognized. But I mean, every hunter uses them. And I don't understand, like, if they're allowed in the hunter world, that does confuse me, is why them and not anyone else? Like, that does confuse me a little bit.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I don't know where I fall. On that note, do you have anything else you want to add?
Nope. That's the show. That's all, folks.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for sticking with us through, I guess, where we got confused in our own heads today and like a little bit all over the place with this episode. But I think it was interesting to talk about these different calming aids and devices that are out there on the market and just, you know, once again, looking at the research behind them, what's out there, what's not, and kind of how they all fall underneath the rule books of competing and such. I mean, we looked at that last week with the gum bits and bit butter, that they're allowed and legal, and looking at things like this that are not allowed. It's very, very interesting.
Yeah.
But if you guys have any topics or questions for us, you can reach out to us on Instagram at mudstudsskullcaps, or you can send us an email at mudstudsskullcaps@gmail.com. And remember to stay safe, stay classy, and stay in the saddle.